he hecho especializaciones en gobierno de datos, en machine learning. Mi background es ser ingeniero estadístico, pero ahora, hoy en día con la Agentico y todo esto me ha animado a hacer también desarrollo de software y otras cosas nuevas. So I'm going to try to mix English and Spanish. I know that there's a mixed audience right now. Ronald, Mego, and data governance specialist. I'm data manager right now. I'm working at a telco company. So we are building a lot of AI projects. And when Paul talk about how can we monetize AI projects, I said this is an interesting thing that I like to do because I just don't want to make agent projects to be agent projects. I want to make an agent project that we can explain in the finance Excel, and we say that we have reduced costs or we have a new revenue stream due to an agent project. Most of the agent projects that I have saw are dying. They're experiments. That's cool, but we want to make and found how can we monetize these projects. So I have found some opportunities in the data scope, and I want to share with you some ideas in how can we monetize data projects with agents. So that's we talk about right now. So before we talk about agents and success use cases, first we want to talk about what is data monetization, what is data governance, and what is agentic governance. Okay, let me begin. What is data monetization? I don't know if some of you have heard of this in the past, but we have three types. Some projects that we can increase a new revenue, decrease costs, or prevent some compliance things. So some examples of increasing costs or increasing revenue, it's pricing models, recommendation models. Netflix is very popular for this. Churn prediction, and some of data monetization through star alliances. I don't know how to say that in English. Alliance. Thank you. And what about cost reduction? Most of the companies that I have worked for, they have a lot of data that nobody's responsible for. So we start to increase the years that we have storage data, and we have duplicated data. We have a lot of data that is noise, and we're paying to the cloud to store that data, to process that data. So right now with agents, it's more easy to find what is data is more useful and what data is not useful. So if we can change and use the data with that purpose, we can find some opportunities. But before make agent projects, we have to implement a governance project. So examples, I want to pass this very quickly because I don't know if you are a data scientist or machine learning projects, but most of the time, the data teams help to improve or to create revenue from making predictions, churn predictions, etc. But this is, we have in data science some mindset that is garbage in, garbage out. We have bad quality of data. We make wrong predictions and we waste time and cloud processing wrong data. So we have a lot of silos that are wasting money, making, processing, analyzing bad quality data. Another example is reducing costs. FinOps is calling another. I have been managing projects that its goal was to migrate them from one architecture to another because one architecture is more expensive than another. For example, Snowflake. Snowflake is like a luxury car, and we are migrating to Redshift card, which is a standard car, but it's cheaper. So we can make the same project or the same use cases, needs, dashboards, the same dashboards, but reducing costs. This is real data for a project that I was in charge of. And I was asked to reduce this annual budget to that budget. So we have to reducing the consumption of Snowflake and increasing Redshift costs. So this is another example. And the prevention. So right now we have a lot of compliance and new laws about, um, I don't know how to say in English, but when multas, fines, fines, fines that are increasing because data protection rules. Europe is very famous for this, making a lot of fines for PII data, privacy data. So there are a lot of, you look for news, you have to find fines because of companies that are not uh, making a good custodian of the quality sensitive data. So that's why I want to say about data governance. Before we make agents, we need to make governance. What's governance? I always try to explain this like analogy of with agile, because agile is more popular than data governance. In data governance, we have a framework. It is Dama the book. That's the framework behind this. We have methods, data governance method. We have ceremonies. We have software to do this. So data governance is just, it's not a PowerPoint. It's not an Excel. It's a software like Gira that when you can look for a bad quality data, you can find who is the owner of the data. You can find what's the life cycle of the data. So you can make decisions, and also an agent can make that decisions because the agent has its knowledge base about what is the governance of the data. So this is how looks a project about data monetization with data governance. We have to find these silos or panes. Dama the book has 10 dimensions, and we found some pain dimensions that are increasing costs or are provoking redundancy of data or duplicated data. And we don't know what is the useful data and what is the bad data and who is the owner of that data. So when we implement a data governance framework, let's see the next, and one tool to make this, there are licenses tools, which are very expensive, de Colibra, que son como $100,000. No me acuerdo cómo se dice $100,000 en inglés, pero $1,000, $100,000. And this is open source solution to make a data governance with zero cost, but you're responsible of deploying this. But the good news is that your agents can deploy this easier, but you need to configure this agent to deploy it very in your standards, security standards. So that's when the agents help. I have deployed open metadata a lot of times with agents. So not only to deploy open metadata, also to connect to the databases, to the dashboards, and to the owners. So an agent, I have an agent with a knowledge base, can deploy open metadata and can make governance, agentic governance. I have posted in my LinkedIn an agent, a video of an agent working about how an agent can work with open metadata MCP. So the agent can discover bad quality data. The agent can find who's the owner of the data. And open metadata is the software, and it's open source, as I already said, has an MCP, and you can use your favorite tool, Agentico tool, Open Code, Hermes, Codex, and using most of the time these two, and sometimes this one. But any tool that can connect an MCP can discover this data. And that's why, or that's why data is useful. When you implement an agent, for example, a skill, cost analysis, with governance and with an MCP of open metadata, your agent can discover these pain points and cost analytics. So you can find and make decisions about what data you can reduce storage, for example, or change life cycle of this data. For example, in this example, I have reduced, what number is this in English? $15,000 por mes. So this is a monetization use case, not directly from the agent. The agent can discover this quickly because has its skills about data governance. So the agent don't delay data. So we don't want to delay data because just to delay data. If you delay data just because it's easy, it's some news, huh? The agent delay data, okay. But the agent needs to understand before to touch the database, needs to understand these skills about data governance and rules, how to work. So this is the AWS dashboard, how we are reducing this cost. So this is some useful and real case how can agents can reduce in the finance you can pueden ver en el resultado en el P&L resultados verdaderos. So data governance is not delete data because deleting data. You need to understand who's the owner, who's to make the decision of how many years needs the data, what are the redundancy data, and what are the good data that we need to store, and what are that sensitive data that nobody needs to see. And this is another example. I was talking with Max about migrating from one architecture to another. So we have Snowflake, we need to change to Redshift. Okay. So we need to make this to refactor code. So our agents can make that work very easy. But it's not easy just to change the code. You need to find the owner of the use case and check if the owner really needs that use case or need to improve it, or maybe it's obsolete and you can kill. So that's why you can reduce costs when you not refactor type coding code. Before you need to understand what data is useful and who's the owner and what's the source of that data. So that's the use case that I wanted to share with you. And to conclude with this, so before making data decisions, we need to understand or to implement a data governance framework. And that's what I'm doing in my company. And also help other companies to implement a data governance framework. So the agents can discover useful data with this base before making agents, because if an agent it's bad quality data, the agent is not going to understand what is happening. And the agent never says, I don't know the answer, or we respond something. And we say, he's hallucination. But you give the agent, duplicate the data, maybe data incomplete, I don't know. So this is the first step to have an agent that make less mistakes, to have a good base of data governance. And then we can improve and go to these monetization use cases. And that's what happened in my experience with data projects with agents. Okay, okay, that's all. That's my